Okay, this is the October 27th, 2021 session of the zoning hearing examiner docket. My name is David Sturkey. I'm the zoning hearing examiner for the city of Cincinnati, and I'll preside over this hearing. Case before us today is case number ZH20210152 and 0153, both at 6000 Glenway Avenue. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and opposing parties to testify and to offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the zoning hearing examiner. All testimony and evidence that an applicant or any opposing party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent will first present the applicant's case. If there were anyone here from the public, they'd have an opportunity to speak after the applicant had presented its case. In the event, also give Wes Wenzel an opportunity to provide any testimony that he would like. In the event that any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to the application, the applicant shall have the opportunity to rebut that testimony and or argument offered in opposition. And then finally, the applicant will have an opportunity to make any closing statements. After all presentations have been made, I will close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or make any comments. I may also refuse to consider hearsay testimony or documents. That is generally evidence you want to introduce that consists of statements made by someone who's not present at this hearing. In the event of any technical difficulties or unforeseen circumstances with the video conferencing technology, I may continue or postpone this hearing at my discretion. Okay, I just need to swear you guys in. If you can raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes, I had to unmute.
Thanks, Wes. Okay, Brooke, floor is yours.
All right.
I refer to you as Brooke. I don't know why I do that. Mussolini.
Yeah, Brooke's okay. Mussolini sounds like Mussolini, so I like Brooke as well. This one's a big one. So this is at Western Hills Plaza. The owner group out there is doing a ton of renovations to the plaza, and one of the things that they want to do is add under canopy signs labeling all of the stores. They currently have none of that there right now. So when guests are walking from store to store, if they need to find the next store, they have to walk out into the parking lot and look up at the wall signs to find out where to go next. So this is a feature to help with the safety of the guest figuring out where the next door is. And then also it's aesthetically pleasing when you look down the hall, like you look down the walkway and you can see all of the signs. The variance part comes in because the city requires a 10-foot clearance and the walls or the ceilings themselves are 8 feet, I believe. So we're asking for variance for all of the different heights because they're not going to remove the existing overhang and raise it 2 feet to put in canopy signs. It's a little excessive. And there's a handful of signs that are the wall signs already take up their allotted amount of signage. So we're asking for variances on the allotted amount of signage. There's, I think, 5 that are that way. But overall, the main variance is asking for the clearance of the sidewalk clearance because it's just not tall enough. Again, Western Hills Plaza, the ownership company, is doing a ton of renovations, so they're trying to just make it a little bit nicer, a little bit more organized. I think it was getting a little run down, so they're bringing in some new tenants and just kind of trying to clean up the area. It's a pretty straightforward request. Like I said, we're just, let's see if I can find the picture. We just want to add in the canopy signs like this, just so that when you're standing there, you can see where you're going, as opposed to having to walk into the parking lot. And there's 20 of them, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's basically the gist of it. They just want to be able to install the signs, but because of the height of the existing canopy, we have to request that variance. And most of it's about 2 feet in the clearance height, and then the signage, the additional signage, I think the most that we're requesting is a 7-foot variance to add 7 square feet of signage.
Gotcha. Okay. Do you know which signs are requiring the size variance?
Yeah. Do you want the permit number or do you want the store name?
Store name.
Okay.
Probably better.
So the first one is iMart, and that one has existing 48.6. And we're requesting 7 square feet of new signage for that one. they're allowed to have 55.6 or yeah, they're allowed to have 55.6. They currently have 48.6 and we're adding too much. So we're requesting 7 for that one. The next one is Rue 21. And they're allowed 52 square feet. And so we're using 45. And so we're requesting again another 7 square feet. And then the next one is Rainbow. And that one they're allowed to have 73.5 square feet. And so we are requesting, they already have 68.5. So we're requesting 5 square feet. Then Family Dental, they're allowed 45.5. They currently are using 38.5. So we are asking for an additional 7.5. And then the last one is Foot Locker. And they're allowed in 95.5. They have 90.5 square feet. So we're asking for 5.
Okay, thanks.
Kind of confusing, I know.
No, that makes sense. So are there any other strip mall locations like this on Glenway Avenue?
I believe so. I'm not totally familiar with the Glenway Avenue area. I know that there's this one, and then there's also an additional one that's like that has a Dollar Tree and a Bargains and Buyouts and a church, but it's owned by a different ownership company.
Right. But it's yeah, that's like a shopping mall. I just mean like the physical strip mall in general. I'm trying to see if there's anything comparable to this in the neighborhood or anything. Just to compare if they also have these canopy signs inside.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up on Google. I believe that there's Western Hills Plaza, and then there's
Glenway Crossing, I think.
yes, yeah, I think that's what it's called, Glenway Crossing. And that's the one that has like there's I'm trying to find it on here. It's kind of, no, that's a Kroger's. Like, is it the one across the street? Wes, you might know. That's the one. There's one where it's like the city on the hill is the church that's in it, and then there's a Dollar Tree, and
It's 5078 Glen Crossing. I'm looking at the street view now. It's got like Shoe Carnival. Actually has the sign hanging down underneath.
Yeah. So they do have these canopy signs.
Some of them do. It looks like not all of them, but
Yeah.
it's a pretty common thing now to have those under there. And I think this is just an older complex that got bought out. And so the new owners are just trying to kind of revamp it.
Yeah. Okay. Wes, what's your take on the main purpose of this restriction? This clear height.
Yeah, I mean, the clear height requirement is basically, allowing enough space for people to walk under without hitting their head on it. I mean, in the zoning code, it's 10 feet. So, but obviously the 8-foot distance that she's requesting is still, taller than, I don't know anybody that's 8 feet tall. So, not likely someone's gonna hit their head on it, but I don't know what the reason specifically is for 10 foot versus 11 versus 9 or whatever they chose was 10. But it allows for the clearance underneath the sign. And primarily it's for probably on a public sidewalk where you might have even a little more odd things happening that would require a little more space than on this case where it's private. Private sidewalk.
Yeah, that was the other thing. It's on like privately owned property. So it's not necessarily a public right of way.
Gotcha. So primarily safety, Wes, is the.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, do you see, Brooke, what's your take on the safety issue here? I mean, obviously people aren't going to bump their head into it, but as a
right.
high
I can
school
understand.
basketball
Yeah,
player. I know how kids like to jump up and slap stuff and.
yeah, I can understand all of those. Like it all kind of makes sense. But again, they're not really, they can't really tear down the whole facade of the front of the building just to raise it 2 feet to add some signage. It's kind of, I think, where they're coming from. And that's why they're requesting the variances, because it's like we're not, we're asking for a couple square feet per sign. Like the allotted amount of signage, I guess, is higher, but most of them, I think we're asking for at the most an additional 2 feet. So you're right. I think that no matter what, kids are going to try to slap them because kids are kids and that's what they do. I think even if they were 10 feet, they would still try to do it. I think that, the ownership company does have to kind of take that into consideration and know that they're going to have to do the repairs if that happens. But I think they're willing to kind of take that on because they want to be able to label the stores from underneath.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll add one more thing on the purpose of that. For cases where it's in like a public right away, like, downtown Cincinnati or whatever, I think the higher 10-foot number might be something to do with like the visual streetscape and like being able to see more of the facade, like as you're walking. And the buildings are actually probably designed with a higher first floor ceiling height. So that's probably why that would put it at 10 feet in that context. But again, in this case, it's different, but the canopy, bottom of the canopy is 10 feet instead of it's just shrunk down a little bit, but the whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are the signs? Are the signs going to be made of or designed in the same way as the mock-up that you just held up?
Yeah. So like,
what will they be made out of?
So let me just read this really fast so I make sure I tell you the right thing. It's a fabricated aluminum sign body welded fabrication. So the outside, they're all going to have this like same kind of brown outside on it. And then it's just like I think it's just a regular kind of tenant cabinet in the middle. And then that way, I think they're trying to make it so that they can replace the faces if a tenant changes. So they won't have to remove the sign, put the sign back up. Once the signs are up, they're up. And then they can just change the faces if the tenants change. So they're gonna be screwed in directly into the bottom of the canopy with, I have that picture too. We can always get you better engineering and kind of explain it in a better fashion, but they're also thinking that they're going to, they want to kind of stagger them a little bit at places so that you can see them directly down. So some will be closer to the inside wall, some will be closer to the outside wall, some will be centered, but they're going to be all just directly installed to the base of the canopy.
Okay. Let me ask you this, and the reason this popped in my head is when I was looking at that Glenway crossing, that shoe carnival sign, it looked much smaller than these proposed signs. Would it be possible to accomplish the goal of effective wayfinding for pedestrians in the strip mall with a smaller variance? And thus,
I think if they get any smaller, you're not gonna be able to read them from a distance. Like this one is 5 square feet and the letters are less than 16 inches. So to see it from a distance is going to be pretty difficult. I think if you go any smaller, I don't have the site, like the distance thing memorized, but I'm pretty sure it's probably less than a couple 100 feet to see it from that distance. Didn't get to
yeah, so I'm like, for instance, I'm looking at like the Dollar Tree sign, right? Like there's a lot of letter space on that, right? And a few of these I think are like incorporating logos as well.
Right.
But I'm looking at those particularly those square ones that look in the picture like they hang down pretty low. Cosmoprof has the same
Like
thing.
this one?
Almost entirely Yeah, and like Cosmo Crop, it's almost entirely a logo with, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm just asking the question if
Yeah. And that's something I can take back to them and ask them if they want to, if they're willing to kind of do that. But again, I think that the point is that even though that one is like the Dollar Tree one, it's still only 4 square feet. So it's not going to be a huge sign. So to see it from any sort of distance, I think is kind of what they're thinking.
sure.
Because it's going to hang like 3 feet down, 28, 2.5. It's 28 inches down.
3 feet down from a 10-foot canopy.
It's,
The Dollar Tree will be 7 feet 8 inches above the ground.
yeah, so not 3 feet. I was wrong. I can't do math right now. I need more coffee. So it's 28, the sign itself is 28 inches from the top of the canopy, or from the bottom of the canopy to the bottom of the sign.
Okay.
So I think it's weird. I think it's hard to kind of to see it because they have this as showing as 10 feet, but they didn't really scale this down to show you what it would look like if it was 10 feet. Does that make sense? So I think when you look at it, it does look way bigger than it's actually going to appear.
Okay.
Does that, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's just, yeah, the scale's off, but
Yeah.
okay. Let's see. Yeah, I really don't have a problem with the size. And generally, I mean, I know Glenway Avenue is just
What it is.
just a ton of signage. So
Yeah.
I tend to be more liberal in this particular area because of just the way the signage is already exists.
Right.
But yeah, I'm just, wondering if there's a way to do this without coming down so far. But
yeah,
I'll take a closer look at it. And
okay. I also think that part of it is the way that it's installed. I think that they have a little bit extra hardware just for aesthetics and to keep it a little bit more stable, because they do have them on like I don't know if it necessarily swings. It kind of appears that it would swing so that if it did get hit, it wouldn't be stable. So it would kind of have some movement. So I think that's partially, that takes a little bit of the length down is the hardware. But again, I think it's just for the aesthetics of it to make it look a little bit more. All of them are going to have the exact same bracket that's attaching to the ceiling.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, they're all going to be, even though some are square and some are rectangle, they're all uniform in like how they're being attached and their design. There's just different shapes based on, I think, what they were allowed to have and their logos.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, as I'm also sort of looking around here at some other strip malls that I'm familiar with in the city, the Hyde Park Kroger. It looks like they all have signs, these canopy signs.
Yeah, it's pretty common now. I think it wasn't something that they had in the past, but I think it's becoming pretty common to label the sign, the store outside like that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Wes, anything else you wanted to cover?
No, other than I just highlight that I think these are only visible from the subject property. Like nobody across the street is going to be able to see these signs, so it's not going to impact anybody else negatively. But that's, other than that, it's the written report stands.
Okay, cool. Brooke, anything else?
No, just, like I said, they're just trying to clean it up a little. So I think it'll add a little bit of aesthetics to it.
Okay. Great. So yeah, we'll leave it at that. I think that's all the questions I have. Let me just take a little closer look at this. I'll get a decision back to you as quickly as
They
possible.
also just, I think that you were in, I think you did this meeting too. They are redoing, I'm not sure if it's been completed. They're redoing the pylon sign there too and turning it into like a brick monument sign. So it's going to look a little bit nicer than what's currently there.
Yeah, that one already came in front.
Yeah, that one's already been, that one was approved, I think, last year, but I just so you know, like it's in conjunction with everything else that they're doing.
Gotcha. The comprehensive signage overhaul.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that case. Yeah,
Yeah, it was a big one because I think I think they ended up having to make it smaller than what they wanted. But
Yeah.
it looks nice because of the brick. So
Yeah. Is that complete?
I don't know. I can check really quickly. It is done, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it is done. And right now it has a hand, like just a couple of tenant panels on it. And it's the photo I have. I don't know if they've added more, but yeah, that was completed.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Great. Okay. Anything else, Brooke, before we adjourn?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. All right. Thanks for your presentation, your time, your testimony. You know the drill. If you have any questions or would like an update on the status of the decision, just reach out to me and I'll let you know.
Will do. And yeah, let me know if you have any other questions or if I can get you anything else.
Sure, we'll do.
Great. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks, Wes.